I think that's probably true. To a certain extent, I think Rudy's inner circle were very afraid of Rudy. Everyone tried to get their decisions through Rudy, and they would try the best way to do it, but they were very scared. I don't think in Spitzer's case they're scared. You could bring it to them. The problem with Spitzer's inner circle is there really is no one from the outside, although he just brought Bruce Giori in. But he had tried to bring people in, people who were not going to go into government. Jim Talon is much too comfortable. Steve Berger is much too comfortable. You know, and they're not going to go up to Albany to Jack's. It is not. They should have done a better job in transition to get some gray hairs into government, people who know their way around. They obviously didn't do it. In Spitzer's case, I think that
you notice the guy with no hair is picking on the guy with gray hair.
Well, I do have some gray hair, but it's lower. I think Spitzer knew very early on that his government was dysfunctional, and he tried to reach out to try to change it. It's just he was being turned down. People just thought the government was a mess and wasn't attractive enough to go into.
There's been much written about Albany and.
I think I was going to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, how could I
know,
resist saying something about?
Wayne likes Rudy as much as I do.
But I heard you throw out all your papers on Rudy.
Yeah. So I strangely enough, you know, I still think that Rudy, by and large, was an effective federal prosecutor and has a good record. But there's a very big difference between Rudy the prosecutor and Eliot Spitzer the prosecutor. I mean, it's a byproduct of their different offices in some respect and what powers they brought to it. But Eliot Spitzer didn't prosecute a whole lot of people. Eliot Spitzer worked out agreements with people. He brought all kinds of actions, whether they were civil or criminal, and he settled them. I mean, he has a long record of settlements that were trying to change things in the marketplace. That's really what made him governor. It's not like he put a lot of people in jail. Rudy put a lot of people in jail. But the purpose of Eliot Spitzer as a prosecutor was to try to make changes in Wall Street and the insurance industry, and he worked out major agreements that altered the way we do business in this country. And so that's what he was looking to do. And so this image of him as this kind of, you know, I'm going to nail you, I'm going to put you away, is really inconsistent, I think, with his record as a prosecutor. Now, in terms of what I think Bill Cunningham, you know, expressed beautifully, the difference in the way in which Mike Bloomberg governed, and, you know, the fact that Eliot seems to have his own, you know, coterie of people that go everywhere with them. Bill said they moved across the street, and I think that's very well put. But, you know, this is another thing you'll be surprised at, but remember, the first Giuliani term, he was not surrounded by a bunch of slugs and cronies. You know, Bill Bratton may be the most effective police professional in the United States. It was as Rudy evolved, his first emergency management commissioner, Jerry Howard, is probably the outstanding emergency management person in the United States. His first term, he surrounded himself with very good people. The longer he stayed in office, the more it was a crony government. We got Bernie Carrick in place of Bill Bratton with Howard Safer in between, you know, and so it all became a crony government. It became this inner circle, but Rudy didn't start out that way. And Eliot has started out this way. And maybe as time goes on, he's going to be able to bring into this government some fresh faces. I think he needs somebody, he doesn't really have somebody like Bill who understands the Albany scene, who's been part of the Albany scene for a long time. I don't know who his real Albany person is, somebody who's been around that place for a long time and understands the nuances of it. Bill still lives there. And,
Which Bill are you talking about?
yeah, both Bills know more about Albany probably than anybody in the inner circle of Eliot Spitzer's government. So, yeah, that is a big problem.
Well, much has been written about Albany and its dysfunction. It's considered one of the worst state legislatures in the country. Does it matter who's governor?
Well, I just wanted to jump in. This idea that Albany's the most dysfunctional state government, I'm not going to argue the point, except to say that being dysfunctional may be a defense mechanism against if it functioned too well. And, you know, if we get to one party controlling, and I'm a registered Democrat, but if you get to one party controlling both houses of the legislature, the Attorney General, the Controller, and the Governor, and both U.S. Senators and the majority of the Congressmen, you know, you might want some of that dysfunction at some point in time. It'll be an experiment, but, you know, the human body creates certain defense mechanisms, and that dysfunction may, in fact, be a defense against overreaching or excess in government. Now there's a point that Wayne will certainly disagree with me on.
Well, people for years complain about the endless gridlock in Albany, and nothing seems to get done. So what can anyone as governor come in and change that?
Oh, I mean, if the question is the governor important, the governor is hugely important. I mean, the legislature is a big obstacle, but the governor has a lot of levers he can pull, and so I think Spitzer could have been the person to do it. I think he blew that chance because the first year was kind of critical, and he played his cards wrong. But I mean, gridlock is one of the problems in Albany, but I think even a more fundamental problem and what causes the gridlock is the sort of self-interest that the legislators do everything to feed themselves and to feed the special interest groups that help them stay in office. There's this inbred, you know, I'll wash your one hand washes the other, and I mean I take Bill's point. I mean the idea of the Senate switching to the Democrats, which actually hasn't happened yet. And in fact, even there's a lot of talk about if, you know, even with one seat, it won't really be in Democratic control. You'll need the lieutenant governor to break ties, and there's some legal debate about what the lieutenant governor can do. But that'll probably be an academic point after November. Probably go all the way. But I lost my train of thought. But the